can make announcements about, and we can get the announcements done.
Can I give a shout out before you start
Sure.
to Alexis? I think
Yes.
she's on.
Alexis
and
Chernosky?
Alexis and her mom. Yeah.
Lori's on, yeah.
Those Bluebird boxes are exceptional. They look great.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, they look fantastic.
For those of you who are wondering where those are, that's at the Chisholm Trail Community Park in Southwest Fort Worth.
Yep, soon to be mostly parking lot and soccer fields, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes.
Hopefully we'll learn more about that tonight.
Maybe. Yeah. I saw the plan. It doesn't look hopeful.
Oh.
I guess I have a question. This is Holly. I was there this week a couple of times, and I thought that was supposed to be under some kind of conservation easement.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, if you look at the plan that has been approved by the voters, unfortunately, they're adding another soccer field. They're expanding the parking lot, and I don't know. They said something about a group shelter, which I don't know what that is, but
that may be like another meeting place or something.
There's a native prairie going to be left is about the size of a postage stamp. So, I think we're going to have to look somewhere else if we're going to get any kind of a park that has significant acreage devoted to nothing but nature.
Yeah, I agree.
There may be one south of town. I'm going to ask Mr. Williams.
Councilman, yeah. Yeah, and Michelle is on also. She may know the name of that property that was just purchased by the city.
Yeah, made it into a park, actually.
Yes, it's Rock Creek Ranch Park, and it's about 270 acres. And has some really amazing prairie on it, for sure.
Yeah, how much of it's going to be skate park and swimming pools?
Well, you know what? That is subject to public meetings during the master planning process, which will probably take place in 2026.
2026?
Yeah, so it's in reserve.
So we got plenty of time to enjoy the nature.
Yeah, and plenty of time for residents of Fort Worth to pipe in on the
where can we get a plot plan of that property and the most recent, I don't know what you'd call it, I guess, plans for it?
So right now there are no plans for it. It's a reserve park, so it was purchased by the city, the Parks Department and Open Space combined funding. And there isn't a plan right now. It's a reserve park, so it will stay in its state, the state that it's in. And then during the master planning process, which again is probably going to be in 2026, that's when the public will be able to give input on, what do you want to see?
I'd like to get a copy of the plot plan that actually defines the boundaries of that property.
Oh, are you asking how you get that? Right now we have surveyors out there. So it was surveyed for the purchase, but we had city surveyors go out so that we can clearly delineate the boundary.
Okay, well, it's actually very close to Mustang Creek Park, right? Which is a Corps of Engineers park.
Yeah, Corps of Engineers, they basically own all the property that's, shoreline of the lake.
Right.
And this park will connect to Corps of Engineers. I mean, it's adjacent to Corps of Engineers.
It's going to be adjacent, right. So I think that's a really good piece of property. I just hope we don't screw it up.
Chris, if you want to go out and visit, Sam has posted in chat that park will be a spot for the City Nature Challenge, and that he's going to work on scheduling that.
Sam, is that what you meant, or did you mean Chisholm Trail Park?
No, I meant the new park, that new purchase park. So
that'll be per permission with the Parks Department, so you can work with the Parks Department to do that. Right now it's not generally open to the public because we're still getting it prepared. So anything like that would have to be with city staff or by permission.
You can see my little fly legs going.
I've been known to trespass.
Oh, don't say that to me where Michelle can hear that, because she needs plausible deniability.
All right, Sam, I think
Yeah,
we
you
ought to be able
wanna-
to see, I think we ought to be able to see your hair. I really do.
I have a few announcements. Unfortunately, some of them are cancellations because of the upcoming weather. I'll say the predicted weather. The White Settlement Monarch Way Station will not be, the volunteers will not be working there this Wednesday or Saturday. The Southwest Sub Courthouse volunteers will not be working on Wednesday. At one point, there was the Savage Cabbage Bash scheduled for this Saturday. I have not heard from either Joanne Collins or from Michelle of Trinity River Water District. I have not heard from them, but the weather, I think, is supposed to be a low of 34 and a high of 46. And if that's still on, we'll get some information to you. But I haven't heard anything.
I can send Joanne a message. This is Michelle. I can send Joanne a message and tell her to get in touch with y'all, because as far as I know, she still is planning it.
Okay, thank you. I know some of us need to plan way in advance to get some wonderful native plants for our gardens. And Josephine was kind enough to look up when the Native Plant Society's next plant sale will be. And that's April 30th. It sounds like it's a long way in the future, but put that on your calendar, because you just can't go to just any nursery and get these wonderful plants like Flamacanthus and Liatris and all these wonderful things. And there will be some announcements coming out, but that is the Native Plant Society of Texas, our local chapter. So April 30th and October 1st, if you're planning way ahead. There will be a work day, March 19th, on the I-35 Hill County Monarch Way Station. The Monarch Way Station is in Hill County. I said, yes, that's correct. Down there at some of those travelers rest stops. And Kim Conroe, our member and former president of NIPSOT, immediate past president, I think that's what I'm supposed to say, spent quite a bit of time working on that. And it's Kim, Kim .Conroe, and Kim, is it at nipsot.org?
That's correct.
NPSOT, Native Plant Society of Texas.org.
Thank you.
In March 26th, there'll be a Keep White Settlement Beautiful art contest in the afternoon. You can talk to Avon Butler about that. Coming very soon, a NIPSOT, I'll say that again for those of you who, it's not a real word, I'll read the words. Native Plant Society of Texas. There's an online spring symposium on March the 5th. It's all virtual. You can register for that and get advanced training hours for that. And the registration would be at npsot.org. Is there a cost for that, Kim?
Yes, there is. It's $20 for members and $30 for non-members. It's there's 5 talks. George Diggs will be talking. There'll be an orchid. Adam Black is talking. It's really good. Valerie Bew is talking about the Fauna Project at the Lady Bird Johnson Wildfire Center. there'd be a conservation person from, let me see I'm trying to read this. It's really small here. From West Cape Preserve, and then a speaker on invasive plants. So there's a lot going on. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. There is the open space group that's working with the city of Fort Worth. They have a draft report, and I'm the representative for Cross Timbers. There's a Zoom meeting on Friday, and after that Zoom meeting, I'll be able to give you any update with what the open spaces group is talking about. Mary Beth, are you ready? Or is our speaker here?
I saw him earlier, but I don't see him right now. Dr. Williams, are you there?
There he is.
I am here. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, welcome.
All right, Mary Beth, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. We are so very fortunate to have Dr. Jared Williams, the Fort Worth District 6 council member who was elected in June. I personally was very excited to have an environmental science PhD on the city council, our new city council, and we are all so pleased. You are in good company right here. Our new city council has fresh faces who are collaborating to make Fort Worth a better place for all. It makes me so happy to see the members that are hanging out with each other. I'm going to quote from the September 2021 Fort Worth Report article. And the Fort Worth Report is a great source of news about Dr. Williams. He graduated from North Crowley High School. He graduated from Fort Valley State University and studied plant science and biotechnology. His emphasis was in the College of Agriculture, studying food crops like switchgrass and alfalfa, and looking at things like biomass and productivity in plants, which is correlated with the ecosystem and removing carbon. He got his master's in environmental science from TCU. He said, I know that folks in Texas love their Bermuda grass. I'm not saying get rid of it, but the science shows us that Bermuda grass is one of the cosmopolitan weeds of the world and is rapidly displacing the Fort Worth prairie. He received his PhD from the University of North Texas in environmental science with an emphasis on science education. His PhD work was focused around American lawn addictions and our addictions as everyday residents to the ideal, perfect manicured lawn, and how our lawns require intensive resources of water and fertilizer. I ask that our attendees type your questions in chat, and we'll ask Dr. Williams the questions at the end of the meeting. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight, and you can share your screen.
Actually, I am just going to talk from a few notes. I don't have a presentation, but Mary Beth, I have to say that was an awesome introduction. That's the first time anyone has given me an environmental introduction about our conservation work that we all do together. So thank you for that. Also, I have to say I feel at home. You know, your organization, as a Cross Timbers master naturalist, influenced me in so many ways when I was younger. I remember being an intern at the Botanical Research Institute of Texas, and many of you on this call also do amazing work in partnership with Britt. But it was so many master naturalists who, while I was an intern and at TCU, exposed me to just all the beauty that is in the Fort Worth Prairie. And so I'm forever grateful for organizations like this and for the impact that y'all make, not only for our city and our communities, but also for our land and our environment. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Today's goal is just to kind of give y'all an update really about our efforts from my council office and the city in some cases to really promote land conservation. And so we'll kind of share some highlights with you. And then I want to leave some room for questions too. And so I know some of y'all are interested in a couple of particular items. So hopefully we'll leave time for that to dive deeper into that. So that sounds good. I'll dive in. So when we set out on this journey on June 5th, our focus was really around this idea of how do we build a world-class city. And for me, and a lot of us whose backgrounds are in science, we think in terms of fundamental units. And for me, the fundamental unit in a city is our neighborhoods. And so we've been laser focused on this idea of building strong neighborhoods and ensuring that we're delivering services as a city that ultimately lend itself to opportunities for families to grow and thrive in neighborhoods all across the city. And so we've been focused in 3 ways on that. I'll kind of go through those really quick. We're focused on small business and economic development around our neighborhoods. Also sustainable development, which that's where I'll talk mostly on today. Also improving the safety of our neighborhoods. We know that there's a lot of issues related to safety. I've been particularly concerned with teen gun violence, but there's a number of issues like traffic, infrastructure, high-speed traffic, and a number of other things that don't make our neighborhoods safe. And so we have to work on those issues. And then lastly, ensuring that we have an effective government that has a level of transparency and accessibility to our council office so that we're serving our constituents and residents' needs as they come up, and connect them directly with the departments that can address those issues. So that's a little bit about our vision, but I want to talk mostly about land conservation today. So if that's interested, if any of those priorities are interesting to you, I'll leave my information in the chat at the end of this, and we can like set up a one-on-one coffee or something like that and connect deeper on that. I've been really proud about a lot of the work that, me and Kendall, who is my right-hand man, my district director, have accomplished. I'll start with open space conservation because that's where y'all left off. I'm really proud to have seen the city adopt open space conservation program. They recently released a report about their findings about, just the priority areas and parcels of land across the city that are remnants of the Fort Worth Prairie that we can conserve through this fund that we have that funds the open space conservation program. And as a part of that work, I was really proud to be a part of us approving the largest park ever, conservation park ever in the history of Fort Worth, being in District 6, the district that I serve. And it's 275 acres that are dedicated for open space conservation. I see woohoos in the chat. That's exactly how I felt. As soon as I was briefed on the project, I was like, we got to press go on funding this like yesterday. It's called Rock Creek Park, and it's adjacent to Benbrook Lake next to the Army Corps of Engineers. Some of you may know Jared Manos, who is also working with the Corps of Engineers on prairie restoration and conservation, and his lot is adjacent to that. Many of you on this call probably were a part of the early discussions and the carrying the baton across the finish line. So exactly, no more football courts. Now we'll say there will be a few acres dedicated to traditional park space, but the bulk of this land, about 230 acres, will be dedicated for open space conservation. So trails, bird watching. For me, I love grass IDing. So some of y'all may love grasses just as much as I do, and it'll be a beautiful space for that. That project is so important, but we also recognize there's so many other spaces and places of the remnant Fort Worth Prairie that exists within Fort Worth. And so recognizing that, me and my colleagues on council, we placed for the voters' consideration of $15 million in this bond program dedicated to fund the open space conservation program to acquire additional parcels of land for conservation all throughout the city. And so our work has only begun, and we definitely need your help. If this is something that you can support, please consider voting to, voting in support of that bond. It's really important to open space conservation. So that's a little bit about the work. I'm looking forward to being able to do more with the open space conservation team. And hopefully we can secure some more open space conservation areas in District 6. So the second thing I wanted to update you on is, I understand that, as the 12th largest city, we're growing really, really fast. And there's a lot of great opportunities that have come before the city council for development. And one of the things that we've been really focused on is ensuring that we're promoting intentional and smart development within District 6, but also where we can across the city in partnership with other council members. And so, one example that I just want to highlight, recently we approved a project that's right off of Brewer Road near Tarleton State University that is designed to really do a couple of things, provide multiple types of residential spaces for folks moving into the city and looking to move to District 6. It's townhomes, traditional apartments, cottage style homes. But the best thing about this project, though, is their commitment to conservation efforts. We were working with the developers and really talking about just how important land use is, and the importance of planning smart in terms of how we think about density, and then the types of things that we do in terms of land use with landscaping and green space and energy use, et cetera. And they were like all in on that vision, right? And so as a result of that, they made extra commitments to ensuring that they were using energy saving materials. Also that they had electric stations at every unit, townhome unit across their property. They committed to planting, all native species, which is pretty much a Santa Cruz city, but they went above and beyond with that. And another thing that they did, which I'm really excited about, is they committed to doing a pilot study for our medians to think about how we landscape our medians. Some of y'all recognize the catchy title of my dissertation called American Lawn Addictions. And one of the first things we did was we asked parks to give us a study on how much we spend every 2 weeks mowing lawns in our medians and right-of-ways. I mean, you would be surprised to know that we spent $87,000 every 2 weeks just to mow our green spaces and medians. And we know Bermuda grass doesn't capture carbon and isn't as productive as our tall grasses, right? And so, they committed to initiating the first median pilot study of helping us rethink about how we look at medians as a marginalized space in our ecosystem that can be native pocket prairies all across the city, right? That we don't have to mow and spend $87,000 every 2 weeks on. And so it's those kind of development projects and working with developers that, I think is really important to how we grow the city, but how we do it in a way that's sustainable and intentional, and that conserves our land as we're growing. And so I think that the other thing that's important to note is that in partnering with developers, we also recognize that as development comes in, that there's infrastructure needs. And so one of the things we've been really intentional about is making sure that we're partnering with our developers on the front end to bring the proper level of infrastructure to our revitalized areas and also our newly developed areas to ensure that we're also meeting the demands of our residents as they live in those neighborhoods. So that's a little bit about both our work with development and also our work within medians. The next thing I want to highlight is our work with litter abatement. Some of y'all may have seen the exciting news of the city of Fort Worth and City Council approving the water wheels in the Trinity River. The water wheels are designed to basically capture litter out of the Trinity River. It's functional, yes, and also it's educational in the sense of increasing the importance and awareness of the impact of litter as it navigates through our watersheds and as it gets into our water resources, and the extreme costs on the environment and also on our water treatment to remove those materials out of our water resources. And so our focus has really been on supporting initiatives like that. And also, I think it's this Saturday, I'm losing track of my calendar, but we have our first litter day with Dr. J. My wife named it that. So in case y'all are wondering, you could credit her for the branding of it. But the idea is to get our neighbors together to build relationships and community, and also to keep Fort Worth beautiful where we can by cleaning up target neighborhoods. And so we'll do that every first Saturday of the month when it's not cold or raining. And the idea is that residents will submit locations that they would like to clean. We'll add them to the calendar, and then we'll bring all the supplies. So if you're interested in that, our first one is going to be on Risinger Road in Southwest Fort Worth. We're going to be partnering with Keep Fort Worth Beautiful. And all you have to do is just join us, and you don't have to bring any materials. We have all that covered. The next, and I have 2 left for today, but the last, second to last, we've been working really hard on an operational policy for how we manage the impacts of egret migratory seasons. I know some of y'all are nodding your heads with the egrets. You probably have a deep relationship with them. I will share the dates. Mary Beth, I know someone was asking about when and where this litter event is, so I'll share that after. I'm sorry, that's my puppies too, y'all. But yeah, so day one, we were right in the middle of like egret nesting and roosting season, and we were getting hundreds of calls about the impacts of their nesting in neighborhoods and in commercial areas. We recognize that Fort Worth is an important stop along their migratory path, and sometimes they happen to stop in neighborhoods and commercial areas. And one particular incident was really troubling. One resident, elderly lady, had over 150 egrets nesting in one tree in her front yard, completely damaged her roof, her yard, her sidewalk. The streets were full of fecal matter. And so you can imagine impacts that could potentially have on our stormwater in addition to her property. And she couldn't afford to make the repairs to her roof and to her yard. And so needless to say, although we want to honor and help conserve and help our egrets who are federally protected find suitable habitat, sometimes they land in neighborhoods and cause devastating impacts. And so the purpose of this operational policy is really to do a couple of things. One, to educate the public. Egret season is right around the corner, and so we have lots of education materials coming out in partnership with the Texas Parks and Wildlife. 2, to help mitigate and deter egret scout birds, which are the first sign of egrets coming to nest in a particular location. So we now have authorized code compliant to animal control within the realms of our federally protected legislation to deter them and help them continue to migrate until they get to suitable habitat like Benbrook Lake, or the new 275 acres that we just approved for open space conservation. And then the third piece is really about promoting land conservation to provide suitable habitat for all of our migratory birds as they're flying through Fort Worth. And so we will be presenting a formal resolution of council to adopt that policy. But we also recognize that that's not the end of navigating and mitigating the impacts of the migratory birds. We're also working in partnership with Congresswoman Kay Granger, their office, of a number of issues that we've worked as a city with them on. This one's of particular interest to them. And so we're hoping that we can find some relief funds of sort to help residents who are impacted by migratory birds as they're nesting on their property, so that we can help cover the costs of damages and that kind of thing. It's still really early in our conversations, but this issue is really important. As a city, we have a federal policy agenda, and this issue has made it to our federal policy agenda thanks to the advocacy of many folks like you all in partnership with us. So thank y'all. The last thing I'll say is, as the chair of the Neighborhood Quality and Revitalization Committee, the mayor appointed me and several other council members to address many issues that impact everyday life in neighborhoods. And one of the issues that we've been really focused on lately as a committee is addressing eliminating food deserts. And so we're in early stages of developing a partnership with the Terranea Food Bank to bring farmers markets directly into neighborhoods and basically subsidize and support our local farmers. And also the Terranea Food Bank has created an awesome partnership with farmers in the Valley of Texas, and they're going to be distributing and packaging food here that was brought up from the Valley, and then we'll be able to provide it in the form of farmers markets directly in neighborhoods that are at risk to being either at risk or are in a position to where they're in a food desert. And so that's a number of the things that we're doing or have done in the past 8 months for land conservation. There's still so much more to do, though. There's things like developing a plan that moves us forward as one of the greenest cities in the country. There's still work around ensuring that we provide excellent water resources and that our grid is secure in terms of energy delivery. And I would also argue that the energy must be diverse so that in issues of crisis that we're not relying on a single energy source. And then also working on issues such as cancer mitigation related to our firefighters. They're exposed to chemical fires and chemicals that they use to put out fires that also lead to higher risk of cancer. And so we're also focused on addressing that issue as well through developing and expanding our cancer mitigation fund. So that's a little bit about our work with land conservation. There's so many issues that are probably important to each of you as well. And if there's one that you would like to learn more about, or if you have ideas, we take any and all ideas and work with you and others in our great city to try to make them into a reality. So please, please, please engage with our office. We're only as good as you all. And so this is all of our seats. So let's make the change that we want to see together. So thank y'all again for the space and the time. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mary Beth, would you be able to read through these questions? She's working on it.
If
I
I
can see
use a
her.
millennial term, the chat
There we
was
go.
lit
I'm sorry, I was
tonight.
on mute.
Oh, yeah.
We have a question on the plans for Chisholm Trail Park, and what does it mean that it is getting developed?
Yes, so long ago, there was plans for an auditorium to be on that property. That is no longer in the plans. In fact, Crowley ISD has partnered with the Ryan Family YMCA to develop an auditorium center there. And we're looking to join that public-private partnership to expand the community pool, to make improvements at the park just adjacent to that. I believe it's Meadows Park. And also to ensure that no kid has to pay to enjoy those services. I don't know if some of y'all saw that, but just recently I made a budget amendment to ensure that no kid would have to pay a membership fee to be in a safe space like a community center. And so as of January 1st, they're no longer having to pay membership fees. So with that being said, no auditorium, so there's room for more amenities, and the bulk of those amenities is going to be, there's going to be a roundabout parking for the trail system, so that more people can enjoy the trail part, which is the northern part of the Chisholm Trail Park, without having to walk clear across the courts, et cetera. So
I don't think we need more trails. I mean, more parking. Come on, Jerry.
it's like
parking.
It's like 15 more spaces. And I'm the first one to say we don't need any more concrete, but they will have a bioswale feature in that as well. But it's like maybe 10 more spaces. It's not a massive park.
Why don't we just leave it alone?
And so more parking is in the master plan.
All right, all right.
But then also they're extending the prairie as well. So that's a little bit about that. I think that's the biggest change. And then I put an update on social media that was a lot more detailed. It's a little gray for me right now, but I can provide those updates. We're also working to get a dog park. The developers dedicated a dog park across the street of Chisholm Trail Park that my hope is that will connect with the trail system going across Summer Creek into this dog park. And then Crowley ISD owns the land next to Life Church. So my hope is that we'll extend the trails even further in partnership with Crowley ISD. So that's a little bit about Chisholm Trail Park and the updates. Sorry, I don't have a lot of the details on what's in the master plan. That's not fresh on my mind right now.
Okay, here's another question. What can be done to save Gateway Park from warehouse development at its entrance?
Yeah, so many of y'all have been sending emails about Gateway Park. That is an excellent way to advocate. It comes directly to our inboxes. I read every single email that I get. And so staying engaged with your council members about how important Gateway Park is to you and what your hopes are for the future of Gateway Park helps council members like me be able to advocate in the hallways of City Hall to ensure that we're listening and honoring the voices of our residents. And so y'all, for many of y'all who have been advocating for Gateway Park, y'all have done an amazing job. The council is hearing you all. And when that decision comes up, there's going to be a thorough discussion about whether or not the rezoning case will move forward. So thank y'all for that. Keep doing that.
Do you recommend that we send a message to each council member?
Yes.
Okay.
So sending it to each council member, the mayor, sometimes it's helpful to also include the staff, like the mayor's staff, because they're our staff help keep us on the straight and narrow. And so including the staff is always a good thing as well. Sometimes the staff are telling us what to do and we haven't quite convinced ourselves that's the right direction. So giving the staff emails helps them do their job even better. So
Okay, good.
and then on the day of speaking at the council meeting would be good.
Okay.
As a person who is responsible for making sure the chapter follows all the rules, by all means, send emails, go to the meetings and so forth. But remember that as a chapter of Texas Master Naturalists, we can't identify that our group is doing that. So as individuals, or if you're in another group, a small group of, or you can say a group of us are naturalists who, but just please do not say Master Naturalists. I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you. Here's a general question. Does open space conservation mean it is permanently locked in for conservation and future city government can't turn it into a golf course?
It's very difficult to turn it into a golf course because of how the land was acquired through the open space conservation. Now, granted, it's not permanent, but future councils are most likely not going to turn it into a golf course just because of prior to the way the prioritization of that land worked and the way we acquired it through gas lease funds, for example. So it's very unlikely that a future council will convert Rock Creek Park, for example, into a golf course.
Okay.
It's possible, but it probably is unlikely.
And then Kim Conroe, who is the president or past president of the Native Plant Society, said that the Native Plant Society would be available to help with plants and sourcing native plants for the, I believe for the island in the middle of in the street.
Right.
At the
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
at the Chisholm Trail Park, right?
Well, you had mentioned that some neighborhoods and the developers were going to plant natives, and we would be happy to help consult with them on that. What would be the best natives for this ecoregion?
Oh, excellent. Yes, I will take you up on that for our median pilot study.
Where do you know where the first median pilot would be?
The first one we've gotten approved so far is at Brewer Road and McPherson. So if you're familiar with the new 7-Eleven that was just recently built there, there's going to be, as a part of that development that I was just mentioning, they're building the other side of the road and the median. And so as a part of that partnership, we'll be developing the pilot study in the median that they built.
Sounds great. I'll be happy to
Thank
help.
you for that.
Yeah.
If you would send me email and I'll put my email in the chat, I would love to loop you in on that project.
Okay, and also I'd love to take you on a walk on that prairie. I walk out there all the time in the environmentally sensitive area. Out, so, and
Yes,
there's lots of
please.
nice grasses.
We'll nerd out on the grasses together.
Yeah.
And then John McFarland, who's the president of the Sierra Club, said natural stormwater BMPs are also very important in new developments, such things as wetlands, swales, riparian buffers, median curb cuts, and native vegetation in the medians. Jace Proctor, who was an intern at Tarrant Regional Water District, has a great story map available online. And those story maps, I guess, I don't know if that's on the TRWD website. Yeah, I think it probably is.
No, it's not, but I can try to find the link before the meeting's over and paste it in.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
John, you
Yes.
teed me up. Many of y'all may not know, but I studied bioswales for my master's, and my doctor was all on green infrastructure. So we have a new library coming to District 6, right off Riziger Road. And as a part of that project, I was able to secure funding for bioswales being in that parking lot as a demonstration for developers. So, John, you're speaking my love language. And then Christopher, you're asking about the updates on the plan. They are completing the 2018 bond program, the second phase of Chisholm Trail Park, which will include additional funding for preserving the native grassland in the northeastern boundary, and then also making improvements to the playground near the skate park, adding a group shelter, and expanding parking, as I mentioned. So those are the new improvements. Sorry, I didn't have that off front of mind.
So we have a question about trees. Can you say something about the Fort Worth tree ordinance? In the past, there was a lot of clear cutting of trees for housing development in areas of Fort Worth close to Arlington. But I guess, what do you know about trees and development?
I will say that is something that I think we can improve on as a city. I've recently been, actually not recently, back in August, there was a pretty huge case with respects to a pecan orchard. And that spurred internal conversations about how we deal with very large planned developments and their impact on the environment. So that's somewhere where we need to work on as well. So I'm not happy where it is right now, and know we have a long ways to go. And so that's one of our priorities that we're going to be working towards.
And here's a question about developers using conservation methods to address some of the current practices of covering free space with Bermuda grass or St. Augustine grass.
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
It was just, what do you think, or what can we do about developers that cover free space with Bermuda or St. Augustine grass?
Some of my initial thoughts, and this comes from some of y'all may have known him, Dr. Tony Burgess from TCU. He talked a lot in our environmental issues course about how do you drive interest towards pro-environmental behaviors. And with the development community, I mean, there's a reason why they're planting Bermuda and St. Augustine grass. Part of it's due to our cultural and societal norms, but another part of it is the bottom line. And so one of my earliest thoughts is, how do we work with developers better to give them incentives that truly value and create value in the ecosystem services that our native species provide. We provide credits for a number of other things that don't incentivize them, right, to preserve ecosystem services. And I think there's a way that we can do that. This has been something that's been floating in my head for a while that I haven't really moved forward just yet, but I think there's a way that we can incentivize best practices, as John said, in things like stormwater management, energy conservation. And that's what I was alluding to when talking about, I think we have work to do to create a plan that leads us on this path of being a greenest city. Vancouver has a plan. I don't know if y'all have seen that. I guess I don't know if it's self-proclaimed or if they actually won the greenest city in the world, or one of them. But they lay out a plan that is really detailed about how as a city they're moving towards incentivizing developers and city owned properties to really move towards initiatives that help us preserve our ecosystem services and that address climate change. issues around water, issues around energy, et cetera. So I think that's something that as a city, we really need to move forward. I know John is on here and we've worked together in the early stages of my run for council on a climate action plan. And I think that's something that we definitely need to do within this plan.
Okay, I have a question. It doesn't have to do with the environment, but why
Yeah.
can't we get a grocery store to build a store where there aren't any? There are people that live there that need to spend money and need to buy groceries. Why won't a company build a store there?
Yeah, so I think part of it is the company's models for building store is based on like financial models. And in food deserts, typically grocery stores have traditionally thought of those areas as high risk. Right or wrong, I personally think it's wrong, but that's been the barrier. And also the argument has been not enough rooftops, not a high enough median income, or a number of other indicators that they feed in their model for whether or not they would make the initial investment to build a store and to set up shop. So two things we've been working on. One is the farmers market, which is very immediate. And as part of the farmers market, because we're partnering with Tanner Food Bank, they're able to also accept federal programs like a SNAP and a number of other federal benefits. But the second part is we funded the Tanner Food Bank to set up this prototype temporary market that will look and feel just like a grocery store, and it'll be in Stop 6 in the new Stop 6 hub. And the idea of this pilot study is that Food Bank believes that we can provide 5 years worth of like a market until the conditions in the neighborhood, through like work of our committee with the neighborhood committee on revitalization, until we create the conditions to where we can create a thriving community without gentrifying it and displacing residents of the community, so that we can create the economic conditions to where a grocery store could take the same space that we created for the food bank and then set up shop. So we reduced the cost for entry into communities, and also we lowered the risk by improving city streets, city, infrastructure like traffic lights and street lights and parks, and work with developers to create better housing inventory and that kind of thing. So that's kind of been the barrier, and that's what we're doing to try to address it. We're still very early on because we're a relatively new council who are committed to trying to attack this issue. But I have hope and faith that at some point we won't have food deserts in the city of Fort Worth, but it's going to take all of us rolling up our sleeves to continue to keep it an issue on the forefront and to continue to be innovative about how we address the issue.
Someone says, how handicap friendly will the parks be?
I think all parks are required to be ADA compliant.
Right.
If you see places that aren't, that's concerning, and please email me and Kendall, and we will take a deep look into it to see if we can make improvements to specific locations that may not be.
Here's a question about, does Fort Worth have plans on having some kind of program like Bee City Campus, like bumblebees?
Yeah,
Arlington has that.
I love that, actually. I was the chair of the We Mean Green Fund at UNT. Some of y'all are Mean Green. And as a part of that, we went through the Bird Campus, Tree Campus, and Bee Campus USA certifications. I'm currently working with Code Compliance to designate us as a Bird City USA, because naturally so we see a lot of migratory birds come through Fort Worth. I would love for us to also do Bee Campus and Tree Campus, which would help us with that earlier question around the tree ordinance. It would basically be Tree City, Bee City, and Bird City USA. But I'm definitely interested in that, and that will be one of the things on our plans to bring forward.
I was just curious because when I was asked to join that in 2020, and I noticed it's been like, just the thing that's gradually coming around to different cities. And I was thinking, would y'all be jumping on board with anything like that anytime soon?
We're definitely starting with the bird one as a part of the egret effort.
I've heard the birds situation quite a few times. but I didn't know there was like a thing with that.
It's just like the Bee City USA. It's just you have to meet certain requirements for birds. Like one example is you have to have so many partners within your city center, your downtown, who commit to turning their lights off for a certain amount of time throughout a year to help birds fly without running into buildings. So that's one example.
A lot of discussion about developers and hydromulching, and Michelle Villafranca is talking about in a developer open space where they hydromulch, they can incentivize native seed mix instead of Bermuda grass and winter rye. They must hydromulch for soil stabilization. That's part of their contract, right? Code.
So to my knowledge, I don't think we do any native seed mixes in our medians and right of ways, if that's what we're, oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. It's in developer open space. I think it would be interesting to incentivize native seed mix, and yes, they would have to use hydromulching for soil stabilization. So, but they always, like Michelle's absolutely right. Bermuda grass is in abundance. It's usually one of the cheapest,
Right.
And you can buy it in sod form. Whereas with a lot of the native turf mixes, you have to buy them in seed. I would love for, I'm sure there's someone out there working on it. If not, this may be a business idea for some of y'all. If we could get some of the native turf grasses mixes in sod form, that may reduce some of the barrier of developers using it.
And then any knowledge of the route of future extension of Brewer Boulevard to Farm to Market 1187?
So yes, we since we've been in office, we have secured public and private funding to carry Brewer Road extended into a 4-lane with a median from Risinger past the 7-Eleven, about 2 miles when Brewer curves that start heading towards the Fort Worth campus of Tarleton. That's where we've stopped in terms of our funding. So we're getting closer and closer. Every development that'll come along Brewer Road, I'm ensuring that the developers make a commitment to fund the other half of the road. The city has already paid to construct Brewer Road, one half of it to Tarleton State. And as Tarleton State, some of y'all know they've just gotten funding for their second and third building. As we continue to develop out around Tarleton State, Brewer Road will ultimately end up at 1187. We're also at where Tarleton State is. We've gotten funding from the North Texas Council of Governments to do an overpass just on the north side of the Tarleton State campus across Chisholm Trail. So lots of good infrastructure coming that way. And as developers come in, we're ensuring that they cost share the development of the road as we continue growing.
Again, from John McFarland, are there any plans to strengthen our tree ordinance? There are developers removing mature trees along the river around Clear Fork.
We definitely have work to do. Like I said, there was a controversial zoning case where that came up. We've actually been briefed in executive session as well on a number of instances where the tree ordinance that's currently in place wasn't followed. And so I sense there's some willingness on council to revisit that and to look at how we improve it. I actually have an all things like environmental conservation plan meeting with code compliance. There was a number of tough issues we had to deal with in the first 6 months that didn't allow us to really have that conversation now. And I don't know if the politics on council would have been a great time to present some of those plans. But I think now that we're getting through redistricting and a number of other really tough issues like the bond and the charter, we'll be able to see some traction on things like the tree ordinance and other, I would call them climate action plan items.
Another thing that as private citizens, we can send messages to all the people involved. What about dark skies? Is Fort Worth looking at encouraging businesses and citizens to use shielded lights?
Yes, so that's a part of the Bird City kind of certification that I was telling you all about. That's actually in our eGrid operational policy. And it applies to all migratory birds and even some of our native birds as well, our songbirds that, I mean, I've been in several buildings downtown where cardinals ran into the window time after time after time again. And so we have good participation in dark skies, but it's not 100%. And so code compliance is working to increase that percentage of participation.
Very good.
I was hoping TCC would jump on board with something. At South Campus, the last some odd years, I've been taking photographs of dead birds that hit windows and stuff. And it's a mess, especially with that one building. The engineering building has this solar panel covering. And so this get bottlenecked in there, and they don't know where to, they can't get out, it seems like. And I can't tell you the countless species I've seen. I've seen everything from warblers to, common birds like white-winged doves and blue jays, but we get yellow-breasted chads hit the window, mostly morning warblers hit the windows. And I've talked to the president and many of the student organizations, and
it's something I think we all need to bring better awareness to, and that's the whole reason for the egret operational policy, and also trying to get us certified as a B city. And then John, back to your question, there's also some things we have to do with respect to how we think about trees in the city to even qualify for that type of recognition. So my hope is that through this egret issue, we can start addressing some of our other issues.
While you're talking about egrets again, before you came on, there was a question: are there any funds available, like for the elderly lady whose property was damaged so badly? Is there any funds to help support her? Is that federal or what?
So we cannot provide assistance as a city because by state law, we're not allowed to gift taxpayer funds to residents or gifting of services that were paid by taxpayer dollars. And so that's why we're really working with our federal our federal team, lobby team, and also Congresswoman Kay Granger to see if there's funds that we can get from the feds for like certain qualifications, like our elderly residents folks who are facing socioeconomic challenges that just can't afford that impact. And then also our business owners and things like that. I think there's some interest from her office on doing that. The challenge becomes like, how big is big enough for the pot of money? And who gets access to the pot of money? Because farmers are gonna want access to it, especially like those in aquaculture, et cetera. So we have to figure out some of the politics behind like how to create enough interest across the body in Congress and to create a big enough pot where it actually helps residents and business owners impacted by it.
Another issue: what steps is the city taking to maintain and minimize vandalism and litter around the new installations at Chisholm Trail Park? The existing structures suffer from this exponentially more than the surrounding prairie areas.
If I am not aware of vandalism, but please send us an email about the specific things that are being vandalized. We have resources that we can send. If it's graffiti, we have graffiti abatement that we can get a team out there. If it's something that's been damaged, we can get a repair request put in through our parks department, and they'll come out and repair it. So we do have resources that address vandalism. With respect to litter, that's one of the reasons why we're doing litter days, to increase awareness around the importance of all of us doing our part to pick up a piece of trash if it's safe. Don't pick up things that don't look safe. You can always call my office or the code compliance team in the city, and they will send out a trained team to come clean the area. So if there's any areas across the city, whether you live in District 6 or not, you can always reach out to us. We will notify code compliance, and within a few days, they will be out there to clean up that area.
And where's the best place to see the dates for the litter days?
Our social media is Jared Williams TX. that is one of the ways. You can also subscribe to our District 6 newsletter on our website.
Okay.
We send emails about any and everything that you would love to know about. And so those are one of those things that will be announced by our email.
Very good.
Newsletter.
Okay, Sam Kieschnick wants to ask you a very personal question.
Oh, man.
You don't have to
answer. I'm open book.
Why did you want to become a city council person?
Oh, that's such a great question. So I think part of it is growing up in Southwest Fort Worth, like Fort Worth means a lot, but District 6 means a whole lot to me. My mom was an educator and my dad was an educator and also a pastor in District 6. And they instilled in me the importance of like loving my neighbors, and as a part of that love, being a part of my neighborhood and making sure that I leave it better than I found it. And so that's always been kind of like the thing that keeps me up and keeps me going. And so I've been working on a number of issues for like the past 15 years, not only around the environment, but around like nonprofit space on like things like food, housing, et cetera. And so I worked in public education around advocacy on the local and state level, and as a part of that work, I had the chance of like coaching folks who were interested in running for office, and I never thought I would be one of those people who would run for office. But you know, during the pandemic, I found myself in as all of us were, in a position and moment of seeing so many people in the neighborhoods that I love hurting. Folks were out without jobs, without food, and then amidst also very tense climate around, you know, social injustices. I felt like God had like given me all these beautiful people and life experiences that helped prepare me to be able to do something about that. And I essentially like felt a calling to serve in public service because I felt like that was a way that we could ensure that we were getting the resources and the policies, and also the access to like someone who's an everyday person that goes to the same grocery stores as all of you all, that is willing to, you know, really dig my heels in on so many issues that our families have been hurting around for the past 2 years. So I did it. I enjoy every bit of it. I also recognize that, you know, this is certainly a thankless job. And I am now regretful of pushing so many amazing leaders out there to like do this thing called elected service. But it's so important that we have like everyday people who are serving and are doing it in a way that like honors the voices and values of our neighborhood. So it's been a heck of a ride. So that's why I did it. Also, one more thing, I'd say one of my missions, if I don't do anything else, is to make sure that as the youngest council member ever in the city of Fort Worth, that I'm not the last young council member. And so recently we put forward a charter election to address how we think about the work of a city council member and how we think about like the pay that we pay our future council members. Some of y'all may not know, I make $23,000 a year as a city council member, which as a 32-year-old with a young family, 2 dogs, my dad, we've taken into our house, right? Like that's really tough because it requires me to also have another job while doing this full-time job. And as the 12th largest city, we're addressing a number of really tough issues that require you being up all day and night. And so my hope is that the voters, you know, vote their values and voice, whichever way, right? But I think one of my hopes for this is that after my term and tenure here, which a lot of young council members say we don't plan on dying on the seat, is that like, you know, other people, everyday people like many of you on this call will have access and opportunity to serve our city in this capacity. So that's a little bit of why.
Okay, some comments. This is the best presentation we've ever had.
Oh God.
We want you to run for
flattery. Here it
president.
goes.
Thank you. Thanks for the information and encouragement. It is just such a treasure. You're such a treasure to have with your background and your well-rounded look at the environment and science and the community. We really appreciate you.
Of course, what that brings along with it, high expectations we naturalists have for you too. So there's always that part.
Keep my feet to the fire. And I
Right.
see that Rob Dinkhouse is here. He said that,
Yes.
he said Dr. Tony would be proud. Thank you, Rob. I miss him. He passed away a few weeks ago. So he is definitely a giant that we have lost, but we're definitely better, and the environment is better because of his legacy.
And let us know if there's anything else we can do to help you.
Indeed.
Absolutely, because as private citizens, we will do as much as we can. I'll send you and I'll leave you with I'll leave you with many thanks, Dr. Williams, but I'll give you a challenge. It might require waiting until you don't have 2 full-time jobs. But if you'd ever like to join our chapter, there is training. I think it'll be pretty easy for you, but there is a 40-hour training course in the fall. And to learn more, maybe one of your staff members might like to participate.
I only have one. We're working on that, though.
Okay, well, maybe Kendall would like to, and I'm putting in the website. It's to find out more about that. It's training at ctmn.org. Okay. And that's for our chapter, which takes in all of Tarrant and Parker counties. Mm-hmm. I also want to thank this is one of the largest audiences we've had in a while. So you are very popular, sir. People want to hear from you, I guess, because, we've each put in about a quarter of that $23,000, I think.
Amen to that.
we have members who don't live in Fort Worth. We've got a big group that live in Arlington, and I can't name them all, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say we have a lot of Arlington folks here who are also listening. And I guess what I'd like to say to all of us in the audience is, if you're interested in knowing what your council is doing, or your council person, or your city, go on those city websites. And I don't remember how I found it, but I did find how to subscribe to different newsletters and get the city news. So please do that for whoever is your council person or your city representative. Thank you again very much for your time. You will be hearing from us, and you may be sorry, but as you can see from the questions, we have a lot of interests and want to promote our natural heritage here. So thank you so much for your time. Does anyone? There's always one more question.
I'm here as long as y'all need me.
Okay, so when would be a good city council meeting for young people to attend? Is there any meeting that's better than, or how do Gina, explain what you mean there?
I mean, middle school students, high school students who want to be involved and don't want to lose hope in spite of all the mayhem and discord and skepticism. They're still hopeful, and so wanting to point them in the direction of ways that they could serve. I'm just curious if I know how we can access the city council meetings, but I just didn't know if there was maybe one or coming up that you thought would be beneficial, or no.
Yes.
Any of them?
Yeah, so I'll give the short answer and the long answer. Tomorrow is going to be a really good one because we're talking redistricting and a number of other things, but redistricting in and of itself, you only get to see that once in every 10 years. So most students won't get to see that in real life. So or in real time, you can go back and watch previous redistricting, but you won't get to see it like this. And then the second answer is we changed our council calendar so that we can diversify the types of meetings we have. So we have a new calendar out. So on the first, I think it's generally the first and third Mondays, we have what's called work session, which is where we get staff briefings and we talk really deeply into the issues. And then we'll have a council meeting that same evening that's just public comment. So you won't see us say anything on that meeting. And then on the second and fourth meetings, we have traditional style council meetings. The second one has zoning, so they get to see all the development that's happening and come into the city. And then the fourth is a morning meeting. So if they're in school, they can take a field trip to the meeting. So that's kind of why we structured it the way we did, so that one, it allows us to be more efficient, but it also means that like there's multiple ways that people can engage the city council at the level that they prefer. So and also, if you ever want to bring young folks to council, I've been known to do this probably more so than other council members. But I'm always asking if young people want to come. Please let me know. I'll bring you there an hour early, give you the tour, introduce you to the mayor and everybody else. And then we'll give you preferred seating and acknowledge you during the announcement. So if that's something you want to do, I can certainly make that happen. And then we give them the Molly pins to all the students who come and see us. So it's the official Molly pin. And you only get that for doing something special. Whenever a kid comes to City Hall, I think that's pretty special. So please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we did a lot of announcements at the beginning of the meeting. Does anybody have an announcement that you weren't able to make before Dr. Williams started speaking?
Hey, this is Alexis. I just had one thing.
Sure.
Dr. Williams, I'm so excited to hear that you're doing trash pickup days, and I just want to invite you out to ours as well. So we do trash pickup at Chisholm Trail every 3 weeks. So bring the crew and come on out and join us.
Right on. Please send me an invite and we'll make at least one of them.
Absolutely.
I have a good young friend who I think attends North Crowley now. Evo, does he go out with you all?
Not that I know of. We've got a pretty core group of naturalists that usually go.
He is, I think he's 13 now. He cleans up the stormwater outfall just right across from Chisholm Trail Park. And I asked him, why does he do it? He said, one, I like doing it. And two, it's my job to make sure our neighborhood is pretty, just like everyone else's.
Oh,
so
wow.
we got to get him connected with y'all. I think he's a future master naturalist in the making.
I'd like to give a shout out for y'all, everyone to attend the next Greater Fort Worth Sierra Club meetings. I'm a member, obviously chair of that, but also a member of the Master Naturalist since 2015. So it can go both ways. So we would love for y'all to join us every third Wednesday of the month, and at 7 o'clock. And Dr. J will actually be speaking to us, about some of the same topics in October and November. I'm not sure. Jared, do you know? That's way too long. That's way too far away for you to be thinking about.
I barely know what I'm doing next.
Right. So join us, Sierra Club, every third Wednesday of the month, and look again for Dr. J in October and November to speak to the Sierra Club. And hopefully by then there'll be better, more and better things to talk about as far as land conservation and stuff like that. So
that's the plan.
Thanks, Dr. J. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Thank you for all the hard work y'all do. I really appreciate y'all.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
all right.
Hey,
all right, folks.
Can I say something real quick about the junior naturalist?
Yes.
Because I saw a question on there. An email did go out. We've gotten a good bit of response. It's not too late to respond. We're probably going to have a Zoom meeting in about a week, maybe 2 weeks at most, just to cover kind of interest and vision for the program, how we want to look at setting it up, what opportunities there are to be involved in that. So if you haven't responded, just respond back to training and we'll get you on the list to get the notification on that Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. Yes, all right, folks. Well, stay warm, stay dry. Try not to break any limbs if we get, and that's tree limbs or human limbs. If we get some more icy weather, I hope you and your families manage this. Maybe it'll be our last bad winter weather. A month from now, on March 21st, our goal is to have an in-person award ceremony for the trainees who've completed certification for milestones, folks that have 100, 250, 500, or 1,000 hours or even more, will be back at the Rose Room at the Fort Worth Botanic Gardens for that event. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Keep your fingers crossed, knock on wood, prayers, whatever. Let's hope that COVID stays down for at least for the rest of the year. That's my hope. Thank you all so much and have a great evening.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sharon.
ma'am. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's give him a.
Let's give him a big hand.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.